Welcome back. I have frequently mentioned the Olmert plan, and probably I have not been clear enough about what the Olmert plan is. Well, let me start with the times, plural, I discovered this plan by Ehud Olmert, former Prime Minister of Israel, in 2023 and twice in 2024. And before that happened, it happens that I had my own proposal that then I stopped mentioning because pretty much it was covered by the Olmert plan. So what's the Olmert plan? What does it imply? It implies a multinational force to occupy Gaza, to the Gaza Strip at the West Bank, basically with Saudi Arabian and Egyptian forces to enforce order, and on behalf of Israel, American forces to logistics and special forces to hunt down the Hamas leadership connected to October 7 using real counterinsurgency, not what passes for counterinsurgency that are a bunch of tactical wins with lots of civilian collateral damage. No, but we have a long history, and I have a video about counterinsurgency. You may want to watch it because many times we forget that counterinsurgencies are above all political wars. Second, it implied the occupation of the Palestinian territories to overhaul the Palestinian Authority to not repeat the story of 2006. Why did Fatah lose to Hamas in 2006? Number one reason it was corruption. Number two was subservience to the Likud party in Israel. So with this record, I propose no role for Hamas or Fatah, regardless of the possibility of recycling some of those politicians, as with the Sinn Féin in Ireland, if they are willing to play by the new rules and recognize Israel's right to exist. But if we have enough time, if we have at least a couple of years, we can overhaul the Palestinian Authority and leave no political room for either Hamas or Fatah to come back to power as such. Number three, my proposal included a Palestinian state at the end of the process, either as an independent state or as part of a federation with Israel, to avoid the problem of divide because a federation would solve, for instance, the problem of dividing frontiers. Both options are good enough because they give enough. So if they give enough sovereignty to the Palestinian state, considering that Israel doesn't have even a constitution, and with a weakened state and with a weakened Likud party as a result of such process, that would be the time to move. This could be the time to move aggressively in that direction. Unfortunately, we have Donald Trump, so I am not stupid. I'm not proposing something for 2000 to 2025. I am proposing something for 2029, assuming Democrats can get back to power and assuming that they can project at a serious foreign policy. The foreign actors like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the Palestinians could take into account, and not another Biden who limited himself to tell Netanyahu that he was a bad boy. And why I'm so critical of Biden? Because he missed at least three opportunities. this an opportunity for this plan or the Olmert plan, which is pretty much the same, could have happened before the IDF moved to occupy Gaza. Biden missed that opportunity. What could Netanyahu have done if a multinational force led by Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United States moved to occupy Gaza? Fire at the multinational force? No. He would have had to accept the consummated fact and just try to use its leverage over the United States government to gain concessions about limits or the elimination of Hamas or whatever other detail that would not have been able to derail the process. Actually, this would have affected Hamas the most because it would have deprived them from their political base. What other opportunity? But after Biden let and even helped the IDF occupy Gaza, what was the second time Biden could have applied or imposed this deal? This could have happened by brokering a deal with Israel's fragmented opposition, especially after Likud was after Netanyahu expelled Gallant from his position in the cabinet in order to get early elections. That would have been implied swifting 8 votes or 5 votes, depending on how you count it. But instead of weakening Netanyahu, who was the main obstacle with Hamas to a real peace process, Biden gave a cold shoulder to the opposition and even to Gallant, and on the contrary, gave his full political, logistical, military, and intelligence support to Netanyahu to turn him into a Julius Caesar in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and even Iran. With and then what did Netanyahu and his coalition do with this political support provided by Biden, a military support provided by Biden? They use it as a decoy to push for more settlements in Gaza and the West Bank. On his side, Hamas also benefited from the chaos because, as you know, as anybody who have studied in insurgencies knows, obviously the resentment created by the indiscriminated attacks of the IDF on the Palestinian population helped Hamas replenish its forces. What kept and why the Likud party was interested in this outcome, because that kept the scarecrow alive. That scarecrow that helps them win elections. The third time this could have happened was if Biden, after realizing he has missed those two opportunities, use the leverage of the American weapons sent to Israel as leverage. It was the worst option of the three, but it was better than the status quo. But Biden didn't do that either. So Democrats, what should they do? They should embrace Olmert's plan and project a new 2029 Israel narrative to be taken seriously by Saudi Arabia, which is now tempted to sign a new Abraham Accord, by Egypt and by the Palestinians themselves, who otherwise are going to keep giving political support to Hamas. They should do this even if the cost is hurting Biden's feelings, stupid feelings, I may say, or become irrelevant. Those are their options because silence is the best way to become irrelevant. Besides, by becoming irrelevant, they are condemned to be the light version of the Republican brand, having no brand of their own, having mediocrity for a flag. So let me leave, having said that, let me leave you with our newscast.
Good evening. This is Brian Thomas Simons, and these are the main headlines of this hour. Among other news,
New 166 executive decisions were released last Friday, among them, 1. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem won't be called or in any other way designated as Homeland Security's mascot, ridiculed for placing herself in memorable historic events with basic image editors or with any kind of image editors, or making cosplay related to the aforementioned patriotic landmark events. 2. State Secretary Little Marco was called back from the Maldives to Washington to say that the U.S. could move on if there is no end in sight to the war in Ukraine, while the minerals and energy deal with that country is still under discussion. Asked about Secretary Rubio's declarations, President Trump confessed, "I couldn't help myself, but it's always funny to see Secretary Little Marco make an ass of himself." 3. Former Washington Post White House reporter Cleavar Wootson Jr., who was subsequently fired from the Washington Post and the Washington Afro-American by Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, was also fired from his own YouTube channel by Secretary Leavitt after DNC Secretary Ken Martin criticized the reporter for questioning the spelling of Elon Musk's first name in DNC's recent campaign. "Elian is not cool," which Martin attributed to his racism and misogyny. B. Minority Senate Leader Chuck Schumer, who recently voted for a continuing resolution that allows President Trump, at his discretion, move funds regardless of appropriations voted by Congress, declared that it was a coincidence that the website showing the apportionments, the use of those appropriations, was down. If President Trump and Director Russell Vought say that it's normal, we must trust our president. Not doing so would be profoundly impolite, and we, as Democrats, as Biden with Prime Minister Netanyahu, must always appeal to the better angels of our friends on the other side of the aisle. And remember, we won't rest. We will win. We will win. See, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. After refusing for weeks to leave his leadership position as a result of his vote for the Republican continuing resolution that gave President Trump extraordinary powers over the budget, endorsed Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer for Minority Leader. "The first time I considered her for my position was when she supported some of Trump's tariffs without demanding anything in return. But after watching her being embarrassed in front of the cameras, I made my decision. It's reassuring to know there are still Democrats willing to continue our tradition of caving and retreating to Republicans. The party is in good hands," added Senator Schumer. D. Senator Booker, after a 25-hour stand against Trump, gets no specific concession but breaks the Guinness record for a 6-pound diaper that attracted clouds of flies. Yes, the smell and the flies were a nuisance for our fellow senators in the upper chamber. But we made a stand that has gained thousands of likes on TikTok. Our senator broke the Guinness record for the heaviest diaper filled during a filibuster. Later, we were informed that that was not really a filibuster and that no specific concessions were obtained after Senator Booker's feat, but, hey, what counts as the likes in TikTok, concluded DNC Chair Ken Martin. Hundreds of Trump supporters gather outside the offices of the United States Attorney in D.C. Far from being outraged at the loss of their savings, the MAGA militants were demanding more Trump meme coins. "I sold my house and my mom's house to buy more Trump, and they told us they no longer in circulation because small investors have lost their capital. Fancy liberal words we don't care about. We want more. We want more," demanded one MAGA supporter. Tensions end at the Federal Reserve. After Fed Chair Powell refused to agree to President's demands to reduce interest rates, He was unceremoniously fired and replaced by President Trump's son Don Jr. and Eric. Nowhere does it say that there can't be two chairs. And I have already pardoned Donnie and Eric for the bodies buried in the White House gardens between 2017 and 2021. I have even pardoned them proactively for all crimes they might commit for the next 100 years, just like me. So Congress should approve the appointment by Monday. Schumer has already agreed to vote for them, declared President Trump off the record, as the official announcement is expected next Monday. New executive decision names Russian President Vladimir Putin, not J.D. Vance, as direct successor for U.S. presidency in case President Trump can't complete his term. According to an executive decision little known in the United States, the direct successor for the presidency would be Russian President Vladimir Putin, not J.D. Vance. Astonished by the news, reporters asked Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer whether Democrats were expected to challenge the presidential decision in the courts, to which Senator Schumer declared that that would be impolite. As Democrats, it's our duty to support our president, especially if we consider that an enemy of the American people might end up in the White House. After President Trump declared that he is considering ways to serve a third term as president, State Secretary Little Marco could be seen with wet eyes, emotional. "We are going to witness history," he declared before returning to the Maldives. Approached by reporters, Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer could be seen with wet eyes, emotional. "We are going to witness history," declared the senator before adding, "As a Democrat, I will condemn him with words that are viral on TikTok, but, as a Democrat, it's my duty to give him my vote without even demanding the smallest concession. Besides, I don't know why you are always asking me things like this and ignoring our campaigns. Like our campaign Elon Musk is not cool, and our campaign in favor of Rachel Zegler's Snow White movie. I lured to the White House with the promise of a minerals deal that would respect Ukraine's sovereignty over its own resources. President Zelensky was unexpectedly ambushed and sent to Moscow in a cage. Instantly, President Trump's popularity inside the Republican Party jumped to 99%. Lindsey Graham was seen emotionally praising President Trump's patriotism. Meanwhile, unable to agree on a response, Senator Schumer and DNC Chair Ken Martin decided to join the celebrations in the White House to show the Democratic Party's commitment to bipartisanship and good manners. A man who was arrested for the second time in Quincy, Illinois, for breaking into a barn and lying with the horses with his genitals exposed sued the local police department because his pronouns were not asked at the moment of the arrest and because the arresting officers refused to take seriously his claim that he was a furry who perceived himself as a horse. With respect to the lewd acts he was caught practicing on the horses, he alleged they were natural, since at the moment, Blake was perceiving himself as a horse. As a result of a settlement, Jack R. Blank, 39, will receive $100,000 from Adams County, and the arresting officers will be put on administrative leave and will have to go through gender sensitivity training.
This has been the news of this hour. Sponsored by Church of the Holy Redeemer's Power in the Spirit. Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Savior? Did you vote for Trump in 2016 and then in 2020? This is the right church for you. If so, Church of the Holy Redeemer's Power in the Spirit is the only Christian church that can promise you in the Lord to have 72 virgins in heaven for only a donation of $50 a month. You will have access to those 72 virgins in heaven. For an additional $25, you will be allowed to replace 10 of them, and for $100, Heaven Premium, you will be allowed to choose them for yourself. Guaranteed, if you're not satisfied with those 72 virgins after you die, full refund of your money. We accept Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover.